Hello guys, my name is Nick and you are watching The Sports Entertainer. Make sure you have subscribed to our channel with post notifications turned on so that you never miss out on one of our daily WWE videos. Well guys, although the WWE is always looking to bring back former superstars every now and then who could potentially make NXT, Raw and SmackDown Live more intriguing for fans, especially big names such as Goldberg, Batista, Rey Mysterio and the Hardy Boys, if there's one thing for certain about the WWE, it's the fact that they have some very strict rules in place as to who they let return and who they keep their distance from. The usual reasoning behind why some wrestlers are blacklisted from the WWE normally goes well beyond the surface of petty grudges, with some of the main reasons being the talent proved to be difficult to work with behind the scenes and thus may have gotten on the wrong side of influential backstage WWE executives, or they may have done some controversial behavior since their leave from the WWE, or for even failing the company's wellness policy during the previous run in the WWE, which instantly puts them on the list of wrestlers Vince most likely would never let return, unless of course they were a huge name at the caliber of someone such as Randy Orton, for example, who had failed the wellness policy a couple of times throughout his career and went unpunished, unlike many other mid-card wrestlers who were immediately demoted down the card and then released. With the assistance of our sources, we have been informed of some wrestlers Vince is currently steering clear of, despite the risk of AEW scooping up some of them in the near future, and this list contains 10 former WWE wrestlers who are allegedly on the WWE's Blacklist, aka wrestlers Vince McMahon will not be bringing back anytime soon, if ever. The first wrestler whose chances of ever returning to the WWE are extremely thin is none other than the former Intercontinental Champion and UFC legend Ken Shamrock. For those of you unaware, for much of the past year, Ken Shamrock has been attempting to get in contact with the WWE over a possible return, in Ken's own words, an opportunity to win the WWE World Championship, which is the only title that Shamrock has an urge to win at this point in his career, and Ken was very adamant that he would be a great opponent for Brock Lesnar. However, according to one of our sources, the WWE have absolutely no interest in having Ken Shamrock return to the WWE, whether in a main event role like Ken desires or a mid-card spot, and this apparently stems mainly from Triple H's displeasure in the way that Shamrock has talked about him in the past, which has usually been in a negative light. With that said, Vince is also reportedly uninterested in bringing back Ken Shamrock, as he believes that Shamrock would likely fail the WWE's wellness policy within short order, which would inevitably make the WWE look bad in the process. We now move on to Muhammad Hassan, the man who at one point was penciled in to win the World Heavyweight Championship from Dave Batista. However, those plans ended up getting nixed due to backlash from the WWE's many sponsors over a controversial angle Hassan was a part of in 2005, and Vince had no choice but to end up releasing Muhammad shortly afterwards, never to be seen in the WWE again. If you were not aware, despite stating that he had no interest in returning to the ring following his firing from the WWE in 2005, just last year, Muhammad Hassan returned to pro wrestling for the first time in 13 years on the independent circuit, wrestling 2 matches in which he won. Hassan has mentioned that he wouldn't be against the idea of returning to the WWE in the near future. However, we have been informed that Vince is unwilling to risk the backlash from their current sponsors and brand deals by bringing back Hassan, whether with his controversial persona or not, given the fact that stigma is still surrounding Hassan's name. Up next, we have Enzo Amore. Enzo Amore had recently made some pretty bold claims in an interview by stating that he was Vince McMahon's favorite wrestler for his first year on the main roster, but the times have undoubtedly changed since then. Enzo Amore was immediately released from the WWE back in early 2018 due to the controversial allegations that were directed towards Enzo, and the relationship between the WWE and Enzo Amore has only gotten worse since the self-proclaimed Certified G made an unwelcomed visit at the WWE Survivor Series 2018 pay-per-view event, which apparently angered Vince McMahon to an extreme. At this point in time, Enzo Amore is reportedly one of the wrestlers that WWE have on their blacklisted former wrestlers list. However, considering Enzo Amore had recently stated that he never wants to return to the ring again, we suppose you could say that there's no love lost in this particular scenario. Matt Sidell, formerly known to the WWE Universe as Evan Bourne, was without a doubt an extremely gifted high flyer, and many fans had high hopes that Bourne would go on to have a lengthy and successful career in the WWE. However, Evan Bourne ended up essentially killing his career in the WWE after failing the company's infamous wellness policy in back-to-back years 2011 for a 30-day suspension, and in 2012 for a 60-day suspension. Not surprisingly, Vince ended up firing Matt Sidell within short order, and if our sources prove to be accurate, the chances of Matt Sidell, aka Evan Bourne, returning to the WWE, whether for NXT, 205 Live, or the main roster, are slim to none. Despite some interest from Triple H to have potentially brought back the High Flyer for the Cruiserweight Classic event a couple of years ago, Vince McMahon apparently shot down Hunter's idea immediately. Rich Swann may not have been the biggest star in the WWE when his run in the company came to an abrupt end due to the allegations directed towards the former Cruiserweight champion, but regardless, it was still unfortunate when news broke out that the WWE had suspended Rich Swann indefinitely in February of 2018 for going against one of the company's zero-tolerance policies. Since leaving the WWE, Rich Swann has wrestled on the independent circuit as well as in Impact Wrestling, where he has signed a multi-year deal with the company. As some of you guys would probably expect, the WWE apparently have no interest in re-signing Rich Swann anytime soon, if ever, due to the charges from last year, and it's doubtful that Vince will budge on his decision. Let us know down in the comments section below if you feel as though the WWE should give Rich Swann a second chance in the future when his contract with Impact Wrestling runs up. Next up, we have Big Papa Pump and former WCW World Champion Scott Steiner. As some of you guys are aware, Scott Steiner has never been renowned for being the easiest wrestler to get along with backstage, and this fact became very apparent during Steiner's second run in the WWE between 2002 and 2004, where Scott was continuously getting into verbal altercations behind the scenes with the likes of Triple H, one of Scott's on-screen rivals, and even Vince McMahon himself. As expected, Scott Steiner's relationship with the WWE has been extremely tumultuous to say the least, and we have been informed that Vince McMahon has firmly positioned Scott's name on the WWE's Blacklist. If you hadn't known, Scott Steiner was banned from attending the 2015 WWE Hall of Fame ceremony, and this truly speaks volumes in regards to the WWE's current viewpoint on Scott. We now move on to the former NXT and 205 Live superstar, Austin Aries, and there's no doubt the way in which Austin's run in the WWE ended was pretty disappointing to say the least, considering Aries was more than ready for a run as the Cruiserweight champion. However, Austin Aries' poor behavior behind the scenes caused Austin to get on the bad side of many of the WWE's writing staff, among a few top-ranking executives, not to mention the boss Vince McMahon himself, which is the reasoning behind Austin Aries unceremoniously being fired in early July 2017. Austin Aries has continued to wrestle elsewhere in promotions including Impact Wrestling, but for those of you who keep up with TNA, Austin's relationship with Impact Wrestling is no better than his with the WWE, as Aries left on terrible terms with the company after his Bound for Glory loss against Johnny Impact, where he no-sold Johnny's finishing move and then proceeded to flip off Impact's management on his way out of the ring. Clearly, Austin Aries doesn't carry himself or has a desire to carry himself in the most professional manner, and according to our sources, Vince has no interest whatsoever of bringing back Austin Aries, and Triple H's viewpoint on the situation is apparently very similar to Vince. When fans discuss underrated WWE superstars who had the potential to be a world champion in the company, it's inevitable that Mr. Kennedy's name will come up at some point in that conversation. Mr. Kennedy unquestionably had all the tools required to be a focal point in the WWE, but similar to Austin Aries, Mr. Kennedy was far from being a respected employee behind the scenes. Many have went on record to state that Mr. Kennedy was hated by the likes of John Cena, Randy Orton, and Triple H. And it has been noted that Cena and Orton had complained to Vince in 2009 that Kennedy was reckless in the ring. As such, Vince McMahon ended up firing Mr. Kennedy shortly afterwards, and there has been no communication between the two sides since. Mr. Kennedy, real name Ken Anderson, has had some success after WWE and Impact Wrestling, but he was eventually released from TNA as well, this time for failing a wellness policy test. We have been told that the WWE have no interest in contacting Mr. Kennedy over a return to the ring or any other sort of involvement with the company, and it's doubtful that that will change anytime soon. Unlike most of the wrestlers featured on this list who are allegedly on the WWE's Blacklist due in some part of angering Vince McMahon, the reasoning behind why former Divas champion Kaitlyn has been added onto the list has nothing to do with Vince McMahon whatsoever, but everything to do with the boss's daughter, Stephanie McMahon. Now, we're sure some of you guys know the story, but for those of you who don't, apparently in mid-2013, Kaitlyn had approached Stephanie McMahon backstage while Stephanie was talking to someone who has been described as being somewhat important, and this caused Stephanie to get very upset at Kaitlyn, and thus caused quite a scene backstage. Not surprisingly, Kaitlyn ended up losing her Divas title shortly after this incident, and not long after, Kaitlyn asked for her own release from the company. According to our sources, Stephanie McMahon is firmly against the idea of re-signing Kaitlyn, and although Kaitlyn appeared briefly last year during the 2018 WWE Mae Young Classic, a decision that Triple H was mainly responsible for, it has been noted that Kaitlyn will not be returning to the WWE, whether for NXT or the main roster anytime soon, and again this is mainly due to Stephanie's issues with her. We now move on to the final former wrestler we have been informed of who is currently on the WWE's Blacklist, and that is none other than Big Cass, a wrestler who at one point had Vince McMahon firmly behind him. Now we think that it goes without saying that Big Cass wasn't a very popular superstar with fans due to his limited moveset, among other reasons, but regardless, Cass was in a fantastic spot considering Vince was reportedly adamant that Cass was going to be a future top monster heel. However, Big Cass unfortunately screwed things up, one of the reasons being personal conduct issues, in many instances showing up drunk during the WWE's last European tour. Another reason was due to Cass going off script during the Mini Daniel Bryan segment last year, which saw Cass continue to pummel the Mini Daniel Bryan after his signature big boot, something Vince told Cass specifically not to do. However, the final straw was when Big Cass had a backstage argument with his ex-girlfriend and former SmackDown Women's Champion Carmella, where Cass allegedly grabbed Carmella's arm as she was walking away. The end result was Big Cass being fired from the WWE unceremoniously on June 19, 2018, and if our sources prove to be accurate, Vince has no intention of letting Cass return anytime soon, not only because of his poor backstage attitude, but also due to the fact that Vince isn't interested in putting Carmella in an uncomfortable spot. Well guys, what do you think about these 10 wrestlers who are currently being blacklisted by the WWE? Do you think that the company is justified for keeping their distance from these former superstars, or do you believe that one or more of them deserve a second chance sometime down the line? Make sure you sound off in the comment section down below and give us your thoughts and opinions on the matter. Thanks for watching The Sports Entertainer. Make sure you leave a like and comment, and also be sure that you hit that subscribe button for all of our daily WWE videos.